Welcome to Astro Chat with Anne Sundell, Kimberly Williams, and Monika Anna. We are three professional astrologers living in three separate countries, coming together every new and full moon to share our 3 points of view on astrology. Whether you enjoy deep dives into the current transits or you are just beginning to learn about astrology for the first time, there is a place for you here. All that is required is an appreciation for astrology, along with a respect for the various traditions within it. So grab a mug of coffee, your favorite cup of tea, or any other beverage of your choice, and join us for a chat on the astrology of the next 2 weeks.
Hi everyone, welcome to Astro Chat podcast with myself, Monika Anna, and my friend Anne Sundell. Kimberly Williams couldn't be with us on this episode. We miss her and we miss chatting with her about the full moon in Leo, but she will join us for the next episode about the next new moon. And today we're talking about a full moon in Leo. Full moon will be happening on the 25th of January, and here in UK, it will be happening at 17:54 or 5:54 p.m., so nearly 6 p.m. in the evening. And then you need to do some calculation for your own time zone. For the Finland, when Anna is based, it will be +2 hours, and for Central Time, where Kimberly is based, it will be, I believe, -6. So I think we all will be welcoming that full moon on the 25th of January. And the full moon will be at 5 degrees and 14 minutes of Leo. And Anna, you want to share your Sabian symbol for that degree. What is it for this one?
Yeah, the Sabian symbol for this will be at 6 degrees. It says a conservative, old-fashioned lady is confronted by a hippie girl. So we have two different worlds meeting here, and we have maybe we need to take a look at our social values and how they are changing and how the world is changing right now. We know that we have astrologically a big change, a shift going on that will, of course, I think it will take some time. It doesn't happen in a day, but we are moving towards a new sign with Pluto that we're going to go into with the new moon, full moon, sorry. But yeah, it's quite suitable for this situation we are in astrologically, or for this astrological weather.
It is. I mean, we've been having a lot of, and we've mentioned that in a few of our episodes, that there's been a lot of big cycles changed over the last 2-3 years. So we have a Jupiter and Saturn changing cycle from Earth to air. Obviously, now we have Pluto going into an air sign. And again, we've mentioned that in a previous episode, Pluto will move into Aquarius, but only a few months. It will retrograde back into Capricorn at the end of the year, and then it will properly settle in Aquarius at the beginning of next year. So again, we have this stretch of time when Pluto will be, I think, showing us and giving us a little bit of a taster for what it's to come. But I love what you said about, the Sabian symbol, the old versus new, and the old conservative lady, and the up to girl, modern hippie girl. I mean, this is to me, that sounds very Saturn in Aquarius as well, moving from very traditional Capricorn and suddenly going to Aquarius. That's very, very, how do we mix the tradition with rebellion, with something new, with refreshing those traditions? And this full moon is opposing Aquarius. So this full moon, we're going already into the full moon soup, but this full moon is actually opposing that Pluto, that big planet that you're talking about, that huge massive cycle shift that will obviously will shift into a new sign for the next 16-20 years. So we're talking years, not months or weeks. And for me, it's just highlighting again that power of Aquarian energy. When you're confronted with Aquarian energy, you're confronted with what's traditional about you, what's conservative about you, what is structure and stuck about you, with that energy of there's a new vibe, there's new wave, there's new vibration coming into your life, however you want to, on any level that you want to approach that. And what do you do with that? I mean, you know, we even had in our history, whether it's the history of music, history of art, you have those names of like there's a new wave of something coming in, you know, and it's kind of pushing away the old, whether it's the new way of music, new way of you know, art styles, or new culture. But Aquarius brings this fresh outlook and this kind of a need to rebel against the old, the conservative, the structured, the traditional. And that definitely what Pluto will be bringing as an energy. At this full moon, we have the added value of it's a full moon, it's a moon on steroids, right? It's the moon on, you know, it's a hyper moon, it's the moon that is like full of energy, doesn't know what to do with it, and then those are the energies that it's dealing with. So it's interesting that Sabian symbol is actually very much old versus new, because that will be probably the question I will be asking ourselves for the next few years. So I'll be really paying attention to this full moon and what it kind of, you know, where does it shine the light in my life on? Where does it highlight maybe some shadows to work through? Yeah, because it's going to give us a taster of that Aquarian energy.
Yeah, I think so too. And something that we talked about before we started recording that I wanted to ask from you was just how these moons are connected to each other with this full and new moons. So this particular Leo moon is connected to a moon that was quite long ago.
Yeah, so there is a way of looking at moon cycle, not from the month to month, which is what we do in this episode when we're looking at the new moon, then we follow up with the full moon. But there is a way of looking at the cycle that happens in the same decan of the chart, of the sign. So obviously all the signs are divided by 10 degrees. So you have the first decan 0 to 10, then 10 to 20, 20 to 30. And you look at the new moon starting in certain decan. So if the moon starts on the 12th or 17, you know that the moon is in that middle part of the sign. And then you look at the first quarter, the full moon, and the last quarter of that same decan. So sometimes obviously they're intertwined. You know, you might have a new moon of first quarter in between, but they might fall in a different bracket, different degree. So this particular full moon that we're looking at, the 25th of January, is actually on a 5 degrees of Leo, and we had a new moon in Leo in that first decan. Funny enough, also in on a 5th degree, and that was Anna, we checked 28th of July 2022.
Yeah.
So that was, you know, a year and a half ago, right? It's good 18 months ago that happened. So it would be interesting to look at what happened to you around, you know, end of July 2022. What seeds have you planted? What decisions have you made? You know, it's a new moon in Leo. Have a look where Leo is in your chart. Which area of life, you know, is Leo in your second chart? Were you planting seeds around, you know, worth and money? Was Leo in your 11th house of hopes and dreams? What did you plant around that time? Because this full moon can highlight certain themes linked to that. So thank you, Anna, for asking that question earlier and for reminding me about this this chart. And it's interesting how it actually now reflects back in my own life, that journey. And I think this is this is really what I love about astrology. And I think I've said that in so many episodes now, that astrology for me is very much a reflection on the journey. Very often we're so focused on where we're going, what our vision is, what we want to manifest, what goal, we want to set. And, I'm very much a Saturn girl. I love my goals. I love my, to-do list. But we don't know where to go if we don't look back and actually see how far we've come. And actually looking at the cycle with astrology, sometimes if you want to know what will happen in this cycle, look at what happened previously. Because very often the same themes will be reflected. You'll have a different opportunity to make different decisions, to make different turns, because hopefully you've learned. But very often similar themes will be reflected in that.
Yeah, and this is the first full moon in 2024. So many people, I think, we look also at that new moon this month, the previous new moon, and how far have we come from that? But this looking at these cycles gives it a much larger perspective. So I like that really much.
Yeah, I think again, every time I get this question around astrology, does it work, does it not work? It depends what you're looking for, right? And from my perspective, looking at those cycles, big and small, whether I'm looking to work with the monthly cycle from new moon to full moon to another new moon and working with that specific archetype, I know that the sun is going through a specific zodiac sign at the moment. I can work with that energy. I can learn from that energy. I can align myself to that energy. But also I can look at bigger cycle, again, with the moon, we can look at the new moon to full moon in the same decan. In our personal chart, we can look at the progress moon, which is the cycle of the moon that takes 27 years. So it usually completes just before your Saturn return, which I always find interesting. That I always say you need that emotional maturity before you can step into your mastery, before you can step into that authentic structure self. So yeah, I think that really helps. And again, if you have if you do journaling and you can go back to that time, it will be interesting to see what was happening. So going back to our, Leo soup, we have Leo full moon. Again, it's all about me, myself, and I. I want to be on stage. I want to be up there, in the bright light with Leo. But in all seriousness, Leo is where we feel seen or want to feel seen. Leo is where we shine. Leo is, when we're saying about the stage, I don't necessarily mean an actor. You might have a Leo in a fourth house, in the house of your roots and ancestry and home. And maybe that's where, you shine. That's where, your stage is. That's where you wanna not perform, but that's where you want to be appreciated and have your audience. So Leo, full moon gives us that opportunity, that glimpse into where do you want to shine? How do you want to shine? And are you coming from a place of that authenticity? I think Leo and Aquarius are very much, for me, the signs of authentic self. Leo connecting you with your heart, and then, Aquarius taking you on that journey of then doing that for the collective. But with Leo, do you want to shine because you have a piece of yourself that you want to share with others? You have that genuine childlike joy and a childlike wonder that you want to share with the world? Or does it come from a place of pride and grandiosity and, I just want to shine. It doesn't matter, what, I just want to have an audience. So it's always really tricky, because again, even those people that we admire, very often we admire them because they're showing us their vulnerable self. They're showing us the heart, whether the actor, footballer, or something. And there is this moment where, if someone puts too much of a mask because they need the applause, just to quote one of the singers, the moment you peek behind that mask, that's the moment that the whole thing usually falls down, and the curtain shut down.
And what makes you happy? Leo is also about enjoying and playing and having fun and creating fun and joy. So I always think of that, like what's the things that really make you happy and make you feel happy and make you play and make you I mean see your inner child.
Yeah.
So where you have Leo in your chart, everybody have Leo in the chart somewhere, and that area can be an area that needs to play.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting you say that, what makes you happy. And, what about those people who have Leo in midheaven? Where are they just, playing? I mean, it is possible that, you're literally just playing with children, you have a role as a childminder or a teacher, or you work with children or work, for children. Hey, I could see like a Lego design person, with a lot of Leo in their chart, just playing with the blocks and designing, a new Harry Potter castle to put together from Lego blocks. But also I think, it's I completely agree that Leo in our chart is where we can bring that childlike joy. And it doesn't have to be limited. I mean, you can work in a corporation as well and still bring that, childlike curiosity to the work that you're doing, to the processes that you're doing. Not, again, I appreciate not every work is, sunshine and rainbows, as they say. But it's your curiosity, it's your drive with that can actually sometimes turn things around, and even impact your colleagues, the people that you work with, in very positive way.
You can be creative and pull out your creative side there and play with that.
Yeah.
No matter what you're doing.
Unless you're working like a finance industry, then creativity can land you in jail, for example. If you're
I don't
too
know about
creative
that.
if you're too creative as an accountant.
Yeah, that might be a problem, actually. Yeah.
So I think, again, it's just where that creativity takes you. And again, going back to this soup, with the new this full moon, we have two massive planets that are connected. So we've mentioned Pluto, that is close to Sun. So Pluto just entered Aquarius at 0 degrees, so it's only 5 degrees away from the Sun, opposing that Leo moon. And we have a Jupiter at 6 degrees and 41 minutes of Taurus, and Jupiter is squaring that moon and that sun, and obviously that Pluto by default. So we have two massive gods. We have the god of underworld and the god that was sitting, Zeus, that was sitting in Olympus, giving the power into that full moon. I mean, we were talking before this episode that usually Leo full moon just feel a little bit like a party. You just want to shine, so you want, your audience, you want to have a party, you invite people. This full moon feels more like a summit, 3 powerful people on the top of the Mount Olympus. They're going to divide the world and they're going to put the rules down. It's not a party, it's a summit. And there is that kind of energy to it. Something's shifting, but not quite there yet. And the shifts, if they will be fundamental to what we know and understand, because those shifts will be happening in a fixed sign. So Aquarius is a fixed sign, and obviously we have Jupiter and Leo now in a fixed sign as well. But Pluto moving to an Aquarius, this is another, beauty of astrology and the paradoxes, seeming paradoxes within. You have Aquarius being always hailed as this rebel sign and revolutionary sign, being actually very fixed sign. So for me, there's always the idea of, to rebel against something, you usually rebel about something that is super fixed. We don't tend to rebel about something that is, mutable and mix, and today is this, today is that, because you don't know what to rebel against. But when you have something so fixed, so structured, that's when something comes in, and there's this impossible force meeting this unmovable object, and the tension create a rebellion or revolution.
And we have such extremes. We have those brothers of Zeus that's on top of everything, and Pluto that's in the underworld and ruling 2 different worlds, but there's both the rulers of it. And yeah, it's very, it's tough.
Let me put actually a chart and we can actually share with you what we see. So if you're watching us on YouTube, you can actually see what we see. So here we are, our chart for this full moon. And yeah, when we say interesting, I mean, I think we use this word quite a lot. But when we talk about mythology or archetypes, and we're talking about, you know, two massive gods that come together in that aspect of tension. I mean, there's so much to say to that, but even just that, saying that Jupiter and Hades and the god of the underworld are in the aspect of tension, and they also coming from a place of unmovable, stuck structure, you know, fixed position. You know, you probably already sense how that story, how that movie would unfold. There is this option of them just not giving an inch. There is no mutable energy here. It's, you know, no, this is my position. This is where I stand. This is where I, you know, I will either win or I will break. You know, this kind of no win, no win scenario, sometimes very often here. And I think I'm turning now again into that negative Nancy. But I think when I see Pluto, you know, going into Aquarius, and I know that we're putting a power back into people's hands, we're putting power, you know, into a archetype of revolution and rebellion, and that's going to start, you know, simmering. Obviously, it's already simmering under the hood of the earth. You know, we can already feel that that energy coming up, but that energy will be boiling like in a volcano. When it will erupt, it will erupt. And the history that we have with Pluto in Aquarius, you know, especially around the French and American Revolution, it showed us that, you know, yes, even if you're trying to rebel against something that really doesn't work, or you're then trying to produce and put in place, it's ultimately a power grab. You know, you're turning from a people who wanted to do something for the good to turning into literally the same people that you were fighting against, or not literally, metaphorically speaking. But the danger with those energies, the danger with, you know, Aquarius, and the danger with the Pluto in Aquarius, I think, is very much fighting fighting against the enemy that we think it's fixed, it's completely different to us. It's, you know, there is no compromise there because we are coming from a completely different point of view. We're coming from a different positions, and not actually seeing that what we're looking at is a mirror. You know, what we're actually fighting against is that shadow potentially that we're not seeing, and we will in a future put in place. And I'm not saying that every revolution or every uprising is like that, but every revolution and every uprising has that element and needs to be aware of the energy that comes with it, that when you fight a monster, you have to be super aware not to become it, you know, and that takes a lot of energy. And even in our own individual lives, you know, just taking the world stage, you know, to the side for now, but even in our individual life, when we're trying to fight against something, very often we don't actually see that we're literally becoming the reflection of that. That happens so often, you know, in situations where we don't see that, you know, I'll never want to be like my mom, I never want to be like my dad. And then, you know, 20 years or 40 years later, you become this. And then you're sitting on a sofa with, you know, in your therapist's office and say, how did I not see it coming? So I think those are the energies that, even though they're powerful, they don't come in and, you know, punch you in the face. They come and creep in, you know, until you realize that, oh my God, I am who I never wanted to be. So Pluto in Aquarius will, you know, will be bringing that, will be bringing the questions around what is it that it's conservative and old-fashioned, like with that Sabian symbol, on what is it where we are that hippie, new age, I don't know, forward-thinking new person. Where do we clash with that? And how do we keep ourselves aware and mindful of our shadow side?
Yeah, with that realization, that might also be the change of community or the change of a group. Where do I belong? Where do I want to belong? What do I want to leave behind? Where is my tribe, or who's not my tribe? And question like these might also be one process with Pluto. Of course, when Pluto is now in fixed signs, if you have planets in fixed signs in the beginning of Leo, Aquarius, Scorpio, or Taurus, you will feel this also personally more, because it will reform those planets that it's making squares to or oppositions to.
I agree. I mean, what you're saying about the groups and tribes, this is so Aquarius. We will be leaning into that. Who has that vibe? You know, where is that vibe and energy that I want to connect with? But again, negative Nancy here with the groups and the tribes, and we can see already that on this, you know, world stage. If you're not with us, then you're against us. You know, so there is that element of Pluto and that fixicity. I don't even know if that's a word, but being that really kind of black and white. If you're not my tribe, you're against my tribe. You know, it's like, well, why can't I be just the tribe that's go somewhere else? And sometimes you can't. Sometimes you have to take a stand. You know, again, there are situations, again, like just happening in the world stage at the moment, where, you know, silence is compliance, where not taking a stand is actually taking a stand. But very often that's not the case, you know, and this is something that we take from our schools, from high schools, from our, you know, communities, from our families, you know. Oh, if you're with mommy, then you're against daddy, you know, with the divorced parents. I'm neither, or I'm both, you know. And I think this binary discussion, again, it's so prevalent, and I'm just observing that from a perspective of, again, this is just a split in our psyche that is very black and white. Very is either this or that. You either belong here or you belong there. And we're losing the subtlety of what it means to be human. We're losing the compassion to actually sometimes there is no easy choice, and actually losing that willingness to go and ask, why are you different to me? Why do you think, you know, speak or feel different to me? What is it? Could you explain to me? Can I make an attempt to understand, you know, what is it to be you? How is it to be you? And where can we meet? Where is that meeting ground? It's so much easier to say, actually, you're not like me, therefore, you know, we have nothing in common. Maybe we do. And can we go there with Aquarius?
I'm thinking back to Leo moon, that what Leo is bringing to is like the uniqueness of everybody, also in the group, but everybody can bring to the table with being themselves, with bringing themselves, because we all have that uniqueness. That's not only to stand out, but to contribute to the group and society. I just think it's when we're talking about negative Nancy and stuff here, that this Pluto Sun squaring Jupiter in Taurus, and then squaring the moon. So we are the one that's missing here is Scorpio, the Scorpio wheel, the Scorpio leg.
Yeah.
So we have the shadow that's there, that's missing also in this chart. So the emotional water sign.
Yeah. Emotion obsessive water sign that is hiding in that square, like you say, is that the third leg is missing there. Sorry, the fourth leg is missing there. Well, what we also have, looking at this chart, there is outside of that, you know, summit of the gods that we have on this full moon, We also have personal planets hiding in Capricorn, so still following up on that Capricorn conversation. So we have Venus, Mercury, and Mars in Capricorn, and Mars and Mercury are actually conjunct at that new moon. So that's one thing that kind of stands out. We also have Uranus at 19 degrees and 5 minutes of Taurus, stationing to go direct, only day or two after this full moon. And we also have Saturn still hanging around those those first degrees of Pisces. Saturn is currently at 5 degrees and 44 minutes of Pisces. And it's sextiling Jupiter, and it's also sextiling Venus. And we were talking about that. So this full moon is quite potent. We're talking, you know, that vision of those 3 people, 4 people, very small, powerful summit, you know, gods of Olympus, and not all the gods, you know, it's the important ones. They're coming together. They're kind of carving the world to in their own image. And then we have this underlying vibration with everything else. We have a Uranus, the god of rebellion and revolution, and bringing the fire against all odds from the Olympus, and obviously being punished for that. And still there is this hum for me of conversation between Saturn and Jupiter. Conversation with Saturn and Jupiter changed the face of our culture in 2020 when they conjunct, and obviously that was also the beginning of the global pandemic. So that's pretty interesting marking point of a new era. When we're thinking about new era, they started a new 200-year long era of air at the time of their conjunction. So they moved from Earth, which was the last 200 years, I'm sorry, 200 years, and they started the next cycle of 200 years in air. So that was a pretty significant, you know, point. If anyone will be reading a history books in the next 50 years or 60 years, they'll go, okay, at the beginning of pandemic, when the culture changed, they will be marking this point, like, you know, we mark fall of Rome Empire as a change of an era, or, you know, beginning of the Dark Ages as well, linked to certain events. And Saturn and Jupiter, for me, they're still not letting go of that conversation. They still keep meeting, and because they're both going back and forth, they're still having those conversations. So I feel like, you know, there's this huge summit going on, and then Saturn comes in and still kind of like trying to put, you know, few words and 5 cents, and still trying to remind Jupiter, oi, we had a deal in 2020, we had a deal, what's going on? Are we still on track to deliver? Are we still on track to present? So yeah. Do you want to put add anything else to this outside soup? So we have the inside soup of the new full moon, and the outside supporting cast. It's a full moon, so I'll use some acting words. Supporting cast of this full moon.
Yeah, and of course Uranus want to bring some of its own rhythm into our life, so it's gonna station around this full moon. So we're gonna have a different rhythm or speed when it's stationing direct. So now it's still retrograding, but it's only one here that's retrograding, except for the nodes, which it's the natural way of being. So this might also, I just noticed when Uranus switch direction, many times also the rhythm of life can switch somehow, and there might be more forward going, or things start moving that has been maybe stagnated for a while, and it might be good to be aware of that, or be prepared of that. Suddenly things can get busy at some place where they weren't so busy the last month. However, I see that it has supportive support from Venus, Mercury, Mars that's making, or Mercury and Mars. That's a kind of good thing, maybe because they're in Earth, and it might be a bit grounding for Uranus to get that support, and also maybe a good work energy.
Yeah. I mean, it feels like that Uranus as well. If he needs to say something, if he needs to bring that lightning, it will bring it through Capricorn, Mars, and Mercury. It will bring it in a structure way. It will be direct. It's Mars. It's direct. It's to the point. It will be Mercury. It will be well delivered. Obviously, it's in Capricorn, so it will be structured. It will be professional. But it's still going to be a lightning bolt. You know, it's still Uranian energy. It's still ultimately what we're delivering. It's that moment, you know, when, oh wow, okay, it's groundbreaking. It's, you know, it shakes you up.
Yeah. So
Is there anything else that you want to add around that full moon, or should we go to tips?
I think we should go to tips. I think that it's gonna be so good to see how this plays out.
Mm-hmm. It will be. So, actually, based on our conversation earlier, I will be looking into the new moon in July 2022 and reflecting and journaling on what seeds have I planted at that time, and what is it bringing, you know, this full moon bringing to fruition? What is it getting highlighted, and where and how I can improve that, so when the cycle will close in the next you know, few months, I will be able to say, okay, I closed that cycle. I open it, I picked, there were a few highlights, and I closed that cycle, and I can move on to a next one. So I'll definitely be reflecting on that. I think from my perspective, the Leo is quite strong in my chart. I want to make sure that I give him the right attention. You know, I'm the audience. But I also would say that, you know, from the full moon point of view, if you don't want to go back and reflect on what happened, is reflect on what brings you joy and what it brings you power, and what is your relationship between power and joy. Are they separate? Are they together? You know, do you enjoy being in power? Do you not? What is your relationship between being in power or being disempowered, and also that kind of childlike joy? Are they working together? Are they not? I'm not sure if I'm being super clear, but I feel like there is something to this to explore in your meditation, in your journaling, in your reflection on that full moon. You know, it's moon versus Pluto. It's never an easy combination, especially in a natal chart, but it's that combination around what is it that scares me about power? What is it where I am standing in my power? And how do I remain with all this authentic? How do I remain within my own joy? How do I remain with the heart open and trusting?
There was many great tips there. So I think that I'm gonna go with looking at this month and going back to the intentions that were set, or you maybe wanted to think about on the new moon, and look at how this full moon can help you manifest some of them, or bring them forward, or use that Earth Capricorn energy to maybe restart some of them if they kind of slipped away or you forgot in between. So this is very potent energy, but just also have fun with it and don't go over the top. We have still Jupiter and Moon together.
Well, thank you for listening, and thank you for joining me today. Happy full moon in Leo, everyone, and hopefully we'll see you to share our tips and tricks and thoughts about the new moon, upcoming new moon in February. So stay connected. If you enjoy the podcast, click like, share, so subscribe. It really helps the channel to grow. And if you have any comments or feedback to share with us, we always welcome some comments underneath the YouTube videos. Until next time, take care.
Take care. Bye.
Thank you for joining us in this week's Astro Chat. We hope that you enjoyed the discussion and would love to hear about anything that resonated with you. Keep the conversation going by posting shareable content on our Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube pages. You can also email us at astrochatpodcast@gmail.com. AstroChat is uploaded every 2 weeks on the Saturday before each new and full moon. Look for us on your favorite podcast platform as well as on YouTube. You can support AstroChat and receive exclusive content by donating on our Patreon page. We look forward to chatting with you all again at the next lunation of the moon.